welcome to our presentation. In this presentation, we are going to share with you the challenges and opportunities inherent in building a culture of scholarship of teaching and learning in a rather distinctive environment in both the University of Prishtina in Kosovo and the Balkan region more widely. Also, we are going to focus in the role that the international partnership have played in advancing collaboration and fostering the culture of scholarship of teaching and learning. Why Balkanize no more? Well, we are both aware that the term Balkanization in English has a rather negative connotation, indicative of the often turbulent history in the region. However, we are offering an alternative meaning, that of bringing together a group of people who share the same interests, which is going to impact the region's future. When talking about Balkanization of higher education, it is worth mentioning that this started in the late 1980s and 1990s. In terms of the University of Prishtina, Balkanization started in 1989 when Kosovo's autonomy was abolished by the Serbian regime. As a result of this abolishment, the education system, the segregation of the education system began. Later, moving to total expulsion of the Albanian population, who represent the majority of population in Kosovo. In other words, the Serbian government imposed a Serbian-oriented curriculum to the Albanian teachers. And in considering the fundamental differences between the Albanians and Serbs in terms of interpreting history, culture, language, and many other fields, and particularly considering that the Serbian government was imposing Serbian language as the mean of communication and studying in the University of Prishtina, it was impossible for the majority of population to accept such an imposed curriculum. Therefore, as a way of showing, therefore they created their own parallel system of education. What does this mean? Well, the education system went underground. People mobilized. Everybody wanted to help. If they had a spare room, they were offered to the education system. If they had a garage, if they had a basement, everybody tried to contribute. To my left, you see a garage turned into a classroom. On the right, this is a snapshot of what was happening for almost a decade as part of the parallel system of education. On the corner, you see the professor who is reading from his notes and lecturing. On the other side, you see the students who are listening to the lecture or taking notes. Unfortunately, because there were no access to libraries, there were no resources, the only source of information in the room was the teacher, which means that the students were the passive recipient of the knowledge. During this parallel system, there were no professional development opportunities. Therefore, teachers for almost a decade were in total darkness in terms of what were the current trends in teaching and learning. However, in 1999, with the liberation and with the help of the United Nations, Kosovo was liberated, and also University of Prishtina had the opportunity to be reborn. Sadly enough, I was a student in parallel system at the University of Prishtina, and when I say sadly enough is that the first time that I stepped in the university at the campus was after the war, when I had to graduate. And this is a story of many people who attended parallel system of education. Now, in order for changes to occur, there were many forces who impacted this change. This photo shows the arrival of the United Nations in Kosovo. And with the arrival of United Nations from 1999, basically, United Nations administered Kosovo until 2008. So all the decisions were coming from the United Nations agencies. And you might ask, how did this impact education system? Well, the changes were imposed basically from top down. United Nations agencies, um, they focused on the gaps of the parallel system of education. And unfortunately, in the process of reforming the system of education, they did not include the voices, the experiences of people who were part of the system. So because of not sharing ownership with the local people, there were also many challenges in implementing this reform. However, much later changes, after 2008 in particular, changes started to come from the Kosovo people. There were many changes in terms of setting standards and restoring credibility, particularly at the international level. Um, there were many changes deriving from the competition with the establishment of for-profit colleges. Also changes in terms of the culture of teaching, the scholarship of teaching and learning um, happened because of the mixed motivation. So particularly the University of Prishtina encouraged the staff to develop professionally as part of the required promotion. Now, we ask the question, how can we build the culture of scholarship of teaching and learning? Well, we already started. This photo shows the students, international students and Kosovar students at the University of Prishtina Summer University. This is how we started. So while we were in total isolation during the parallel system, we open to the world. However, we still have the question, how can we advance this culture of scholarship, of learning, of teaching and learning? There are ways, but there are many challenges. I personally am, a teacher, trainer with Center for Teaching Excellence at the University of Prishtina. In my trainings, one of the first things that I have to do is establish credibility. And what does it mean? That often I have as faculty members who are much experienced than I am. And because I'm younger, there are always suspicion about, my competences. So I have to try and build their trust. And another thing that I find challenging is how to encourage collaboration between faculty, particularly if it involves the senior and younger generation. In looking back at the parallel system, if you recall the photo of the professor being alone, they have been used to work alone, and asking them to share knowledge with others and asking them to collaborate and do something else is like asking them to come out of their comfort zone. However, despite these challenges, there are many opportunities. In considering that Kosovo has the youngest population in Europe, that means that the incoming graduates, they bring new requirements, they bring a different energy, and in a way, they inspire change among the faculty members. Also, younger faculty members have more opportunities to learn about the current trends of teaching and learning abroad and bringing that experience and sharing with students and faculty members in the University of Pristina. Laura?
Well, speaking of bringing in things from abroad, my name is Laura Cruz and I work at Penn State. Blerta and I have been working together as colleagues on several scholarship of teaching and learning projects. And I've been fortunate to work with Blerta and her colleagues on their Center for Teaching and Learning. The University of Prishtina did establish a Center for Teaching and Learning called the Center for Teaching Excellence in 2015. When they did this, they had two programs, a basic and advanced certificate, and to date, nearly 600 faculty in the University of Prishtina have been credentialed through these training programs. Much of the purpose of the training programs was to establish some credibility, but also to establish kind of a baseline culture, common language of teaching and learning at the institution. It is mandatory for advancement. It is part of their recognition and reward system. But the basis that this widespread training has established has been fostering new kinds of ideas that aren't necessarily extrinsically motivated. For example, the center pretty early on identified certain faculty to lead the training sessions, to serve as sort of the lead trainers. Blerta is one of those. And in many ways, those trainers have become not just leaders of workshops, but also advocates and role models and connectors and collaborators in terms of thinking about teaching and learning both at the university and beyond. And where they're heading in the next academic year is they're looking to establish a program of peer observation. In the United States, it's very similar to what we would probably call teaching squares, where groups of faculty get together and observe each other's classes and provide each other feedback and really start to develop that sort of grassroots culture of teaching, learning, and scholarship. And part of the reason Blerta and I became connected is that faculty at the University of Prishtina, it is a research university, it is the leading research university in Kosovo, are expected to publish research, especially in international journals, with high quality international journals. And of course, the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning has high quality international journals that are very interested in the kinds of teaching and learning that are taking place in Prishtina. So we're really seeing a groundswell of interest in doing this kind of scholarship. We did some pilot writing groups in terms of setting aside some time for people to work together and establish a foundation for scholarship of teaching and learning that is very distinctive to the university and to the region. And one of the other things that came out of my work and collaborations with them is that I came there not to tell them what to do. I came to Blerta as a colleague, much like the tradition of research universities in the United States and the UK and Australia, where faculty come as guest lecturers in order to exchange knowledge and be part of kind of a knowledge economy of scholarship and teaching and learning. And that's been my role. And one of the things that came out of my conversations with the leadership at the University of Prishtina is, as far as they know, and that's careful consideration, University of Prishtina has the only Center for Teaching and Learning in the immediate region. There may be some others, but they have a real vision for the Center for Teaching Excellence becoming a real hub of regional leadership. They have a vision of using the language of the scholarship of teaching and learning, not as to divide the region, but to bring it together. To collaborate, to connect. They're already seeing faculty and students from surrounding countries come to Prishtina, take part in some of these trainings, ask the faculty trainers to come there. There's been community interest in some of the trainings too. So really what we're seeing is this reverse balkanization, as opposed to that term being one of dividing. We really see, they really see the role of the scholarship of teaching and learning as connecting the region, as strengthening the ties between the various entities, and in some ways, getting past some of the historical forces that have divided them. And I can't think of a more appropriate way to talk about this at a conference that's called ISS SoTL Connects. And so we're very grateful to have connected with you for 15 minutes and hearing about the state of the scholarship of teaching and learning at the University of Prishtina in Kosovo. And we look forward to connecting with all of you further as part of the ISS SoTL Connects experience. Thank you so much for your time.